Well, we went to see Devil Wears Prada the musical, and we took our friend Alice Bryan, and she didn't know it was a musical. It was a serious play.
Yeah, a serious dramatic
we were
reenactment.
going to see a Shakespeare retelling of the Devil Wears Prada.
The lights went down, and Amy Di Bartolomeo, who plays Emily, who's an icon and Olivier nominated. Shout out. Yeah, she comes out and she goes she does her Emily bit, and then she goes enjoy the show, don't sing along, enjoy the show. And Alice just goes, oh fuck, is it a musical?
Alice really loudly went, oh, is it a musical?
As it
and
went,
then me and Chris were hysterically
Stay hydrated. First thing in the morning, tired and yawning. What you gonna do?
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Stay Hydrated with my sister Elizabeth Hall
and my brother Christopher Hall.
Had a little moment there when I forgot your name.
It's totally fine.
It's
only been 27 years.
Yeah, and today we have a fabulous guest. Very, very excited that she is here. She is a comedian, a writer, a director, and I'm going to say best friend of the pod.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Would you say that? I'm going to say best friend of the pod. Grace Campbell is here.
I'm so glad I did get best friend of the pod.
Yes,
of
course.
100%.
Yeah,
you deserve it.
Honoured.
How are you, my friend?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so glad that we can do this.
Us too. We were just talking about the great senses dogs have.
So I was saying, because Lee, your wonderful girlfriend, is currently looking after Eddie, my wonderful dog. Imagine if I said my wonderful girlfriend.
Your life partner.
My life partner, Eddie, my Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. And Eddie somehow had dragged Lee back to where we were because she could smell that I was still here, which is severely creepy if you think about it. The fact that they can tell where you are by a scent that strong. Maybe I just sting. And then I was saying I read this thing that was dogs can hear 6 times further away than humans can. And then you thought of a good bit, which was...
If dogs can hear 6 times away than humans can, and we can't even see a red flag in a terrible
I'm
man.
having that. Copyright.
No, it's yours.
Trademark.
Yeah.
That's a joke for my stand-up. It's a great bit.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible.
Dogs are thick in some ways, but then so smart in other ways. And they can smell. That's why dogs always find dead bodies and shit.
Yeah.
No, so
vibe
true.
down.
No,
wow.
so
What was that?
Dogs can
2
smell
minutes.
shit.
What's crazy is you would imagine that it would be that Eddie could smell along the floor, but it's what's she smelling like? The underside of your boots? And
Well, do you know about this, right? So in that book, Homo Sapiens, I read this thing which I think about a lot, which is that, actually, I don't think it was from Homo Sapiens, but Homo Sapiens is where I learned the origin of gossip. And then I read another book about dogs. I sound like I read books. I read 1 book a year. But I read another book about dogs that said that the reason why dogs love sniffing, so what Eddie will be doing right now is just sniffing around, is because it's their form of social media. It's their way of knowing who's been here, right? So they'll smell, and she might smell the piss of a dog she knows. Yeah. She might smell the piss of a dog who might be related to someone, and she'll be able to sense that. So sometimes when I'm walking her and she stops to sniff and she really has to get in there and sniff part of the pavement, I'm like, you're getting some shit there. You're finding out something there.
DMs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're scrolling.
Yeah. Someone's just accidentally posted a story that was meant to be in the DMs and you've just sniffed it.
Yeah. Then when you're dragging a dog on a walk, if you're we need to do a quick walk, you can't keep sniffing, and you see people no judgment, people have busy days, but you're pulling your dog away from
you're taking
smelling.
them away from Instagram.
You're giving them those time limits on Instagram.
Exactly.
And would you like that?
Well, you should.
Well, yeah.
Get off Instagram.
So, going back to what you just said, what's the origin of gossip?
Yeah. Just so we don't have to read the book.
Yeah. What are the spark notes on that
gossip
chapter?
was it was originated as a way for people to, I guess, before any form of technology, right? Communities would gossip as a way to feel connected to each other and then gossip was a huge part of the spread of information. People would talk about other people and what was going on, and that's how people knew about what existed. I read this book so long ago, so I'm paraphrasing it a lot. But my thing, I think gossip is healthy.
Yeah.
I think we should all gossip, and I think bitching to an extent, if done ethically is a good thing. And
ethical bitching.
Ethical bitching.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I mean, gossip is a great word and it feels fun and flirty. And as soon as people say, oh, you're bitching, then obviously that's a different turn. But gossip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, I would never gossip about something that's not gossipable about. Do you know what I mean? Like there's like obvious lines of like what you should gossip about. But I do like a sort of, oh my God, have you heard?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thrill of it.
And we have a great reaction to gossip.
Oh.
Wait, what?
No, I was going to say when I sometimes will text Chris saying, can I be a bitch for a second?
And I say, please.
Yeah.
Space.
Proceed.
Yeah.
And then when you give me some really good gossip, I go, wow, chomp.
Chomp. Just chomping on that.
Yeah. Also, you can add an action for people listening. You can add an action of like licking your fingers a little bit. But the chomp is definitely a great response to when you hear some good gossip.
Yeah, it does make sense that in a pre-technology community, you would gossip to like be like, he's a weirdo.
Well, that's
Don't
the other
let him
thing.
into
And
the community.
exactly. And that's how those kinds of like, you know, pre-existing forms of like Me Too and like people, you know, it's how people could warn each other off of like weird people.
Yeah.
And that's another form of gossip is say like someone you know is going on a date with like a creep. Be like, oh, don't. Yeah. And if gossip didn't exist, you wouldn't know she was going on a date with him.
Have you ever gone on a date with someone or put someone on that Facebook group of like, are you dating this man?
No, but do you remember that guy? The one who said, was it Liz? You're going to die at this story. No, so there was this guy who I had like matched with on a dating app. This is years ago. And we were going to meet up and then we never did. I think I'd just gotten a puppy and I was like bored of, I think he lived really far away as well. Lived in like southwest London. Anyway, at one point when we were talking, he said he'd been on that group. Are we fucking the same guy? And I was like, well, that's a red flag. Like, I don't know why you're telling me that. I was like, why were you on that? And he was like, oh, it's just, you know, people were saying that I've been like standing them up. I was like, well, were you? Like,
people are saying I cheated on them and it's like, did I? Yeah.
Anyway, so after that, I was like, I'm just not going to meet this guy. And then like about 5 or 6 months later, someone messaged me on Instagram being like, I went on a date with someone the other day and all he did was talk about the fact that he'd had sex with you. And I was like, oh shit. I was thinking, okay, like loads of my exes are not over me. So I was like, who was it? Loads of them are, by the way, but some of them definitely still aren't. And I was like, who was it? And then she said, this guy, the one who I'd never met, and sent me a picture of him. And I was like, I never met him. Like, that's fucking weird.
He lives in southwest.
He lives in southwest London. Yeah. And he was on Are We Fucking the Same Guy? And so then I messaged him like, hey, someone's just messaged me saying that you've been going around saying that you got with me. And he was like, at first he was really defensive. And then he went, I maybe did say that we like were going to meet up and I just didn't reply. And then he went, okay, yeah, I did say that we met up. And then he was going, who was it? Who was it?
The spiral with you not replying.
I just wasn't replying. He's
like, how many people have you been saying this to?
Exactly. Then he went, who was it? Was it Liz? Oh my God. And then I said, no, it wasn't Liz. And then he said, was it Caitlin? And I said, it wasn't Caitlin. And then he was saying, he'd obviously been going around telling loads of people that he'd fucked me and we'd never met.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was it Liz?
Was it Liz?
Gossip.
Yes.
And that is why gossip exists.
And that is why gossip needs to exist.
Was it Liz?
Yeah, because we were dying because was it Liz was like, then we were just,
it was like dot.
And then Chris would actually talk about you
Liz?
And I'd be like, oh, not Liz, not that Liz. Not that one.
I think your next pod merch should be
Was it Liz?
Was it Liz?
Yeah.
Was it Liz is amazing.
Such a good line.
And the way you just let him, he was just spiraling. So
I will
it was
say,
like message.
listeners, that is my best. Like, and I know that sometimes I've done that, but when you've caught someone out for doing something bad, send them one like, psh, and then just don't reply and watch them in real time. Just have to come.
Unravel.
Because the more you give them, then the more they can lie about. Whereas I just was watching him type. And then he went through all of these different lies. And then eventually was like, yeah, I have been telling people that we fucked.
Yeah.
So embarrassing.
How dare you say that? I would never come to South West London.
Like Surbiton. No offense, John.
I was actually going to say track John. Guys, my boyfriend lives in south, west.
No, but he lives in
southwest.
Barnes. So
He does, yeah.
It's very chic. Barnes,
It's very
where
chic.
Gary Lineker lives.
It's just, and Stanley Tucci apparently.
Oh, of course, Stanley Tucci lives in Barnes. That makes so much sense. It's like very, and also Holly
Willoughby lives very close. If not Barnes, maybe Ham.
Oh, there's a place called Ham.
Yeah, apparently we keep trying to go to the pizza place that Stanley Tucci thinks is the best pizza in
Wow,
London.
and you can't get a table.
No, we can get a table.
Oh.
There's just no Stanley Tucci yet.
Fine.
Stanley Tucci is
Keeping it, he keeps evading us.
when he does those videos. Is that
Yeah,
him?
yeah.
I thought
It's so
him.
cute. Are you recording?
All right.
Yeah.
He's
Today I'm
like,
gonna make pasta.
I love pasta puttanesca.
Yeah. Famously plays lots of gay best friends.
Yeah,
That is
well,
okay.
him in Devil Wears Prada is like
life changing.
We had a fun time at Devil Wears Prada the musical.
Well, we went to see Devil Wears Prada the musical, and we took our friend Alice Bryan, and she didn't know it was a musical. She thought it was a serious play.
Yeah,
of the Devil
a serious
We were
dramatic
going to
reenactment.
see a Shakespeare retelling of the Devil Wears
And like
Prada.
the lights went down, and like the Amy Di Bartolomeo, who plays Emily, who's an icon and
amazing.
Olivier nominated. Shout out! I don't know whether this might have come out after the Oliviers. I hope you won.
Yeah, I'm sure you will have
I
won
really hope
because
you
you're
won.
so good as Emily.
Keep this in. I hope you won. Yeah, she comes out and she goes like, she does like her Emily bit, and then she goes like, enjoy the show. Like, don't sing along, enjoy the show. And Alice just goes, oh fuck, is it a
Alice
musical?
really loudly went, oh, is it a musical?
As it
And
went,
then me and Chris were like hysterically laughing. And then every time they would break into song, she'd go,
slunch over. Oh, physically like not happy. Something that made me think of you on the way here, from someone who grew up in London. Did you go on school trips on the tube? We were on we were on the tube this morning, and there was like 40 school kids. Love, they've got to get somewhere. As a teacher, scary.
yes, we did. I will never forget my my dad worked in politics when I was growing up, and then he left Downing Street when I was like 9 or 10. And so then like when I was still at primary school, we went on this school trip, and my mum was like, look, you've been a pretty absent father for most of Grace's life so far. You're going to be one of the chaperones on this school trip. And we went to, I think it was the Science Museum or like the British Museum, one of the museums. And I just really vividly remember looking at this man and thinking, you're so fucking out of your depth. Like, you're on a school trip with 60 children. It was my whole year 6 primary school year. And I remember being on the tube and just thinking, he does not want to be here. He was just in the walls of power. And now he's like on the Northern Line with 60 screaming kids. And no one gives a fuck who he is. So we definitely did do that.
They're like, Mr. Campbell, you have 10 pairs of children to not
that's
lose.
and the parents, you have to chaperone, you have to like not lose children.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to lose a child when you have so many of them. I was thinking that
on
yesterday.
the tube.
On the Eurostar, there was a massive school trip coming to London. I was like, okay, must be nice. We got to go to like the Science Museum, not to Paris. But and then I was thinking, anyone could just grab one of these children and then like you've lost
if the
kid.
tube goes,
I know.
what do you do then? Yeah, that's so scary. That's so scary. I mean, like our mum is a primary school teacher, but it was, you get 30 kids out of the classroom onto a bus and then you like get to the place, fine.
Yeah.
But I just feel tube, train, scary. So scary.
Then it's like, do you like keeping a hold of the children when you're like walking around the museum, when you're walking around the...
That's okay only because you're like, well, I mean, it's less scary. I feel.
We went on some really epic school trips. So like when I was in secondary school, we went to Poland, went to Krakow. And we were about 16 and we ran away so many times. So many times. Because we were like, we're going clubbing.
Yeah.
Like, we're in Poland. We're going clubbing. So we would just like all be at dinner and then 5 of us would just like run away and go and buy pink cigarettes and go clubbing.
Oh my God,
Very,
pink
very chic.
cigarettes.
Yeah, they have these pink cigarettes that, the pink wafer biscuits, what are they called? Wafers?
Panthers.
Yeah.
Panther? Have I just,
You know, there's-
is
that's
that a
like-
nickname?
That's a brand.
Yeah. So like those, they have a cigarette that tastes just like them.
Whoa.
It's mad. Yeah, I mean popcorn lung, but
Yeah.
was amazing.
But delicious at the time.
Delicious. I was like, this is like a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank
It was
God.
the precursor
you
to
skipped
vape,
dinner.
to be honest.
Yeah.
They walked so vaping could run.
God, we really think, we're really out here thinking vaping is some new concept.
Yeah, no, Poland's
flavoured
been
cigarettes.
on that game.
Pink cigarettes.
I remember a girl from at school. She was from China, and she came back from the summer holiday once with these like coloured cigarettes.
Yeah.
Not that I smoked them though. I just looked at them.
My friend went to Japan once, and he said that they were just like sat in like a outdoor like restaurant, and like Marlboro girls come around and just like give out free packets of cigarettes, like just free 20 packs.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not like all the time, but like that's like an advertising thing. Is like cigarettes, and he was like, "I'll take
Sounds
7
like a
packs,
dream.
please."
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
You'd never. Although they do give out the.
I feel that's like a really like.
Snus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the chewy.
The like weird powdery
Schnooze.
stuff.
What is
It's
that?
horrible.
Oh.
It's like a little sachet of sort of nicotine that you put inside your mouth, and then it sort of makes you feel like you're having a panic attack, gonna shoot yourself, your mouth's like on fire. But then after a while you become addicted to it, like any other form of nicotine.
Yeah.
And it's like people have started doing it instead of vaping.
Fine.
Because it's better for you. But it's fucked. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were like, "Oh, it's fine. You just like you work your way up to it." And I was like, I just feel like I've worked my way up to enough stuff. Like I don't need to like force myself to take, you know what I mean?
That's the thing about it, is like it's a bit like, so when I've tried to quit vaping, I've had nicotine gum, which at first you're like, ugh, it's disgusting. And then after a while you're like, oh my God, chomp, chomp, chomp. I can have like 15 of these at once.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with the snus.
We were like working one day, and we had really made our way through a pack of Nicorette.
Yeah, because
you
you sort of get high, you feel like a high from it.
like a Nick Rush type thing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I was just in Paris. I don't know if I've mentioned that. And
Le fumer, le cigarette.
the smoking culture in Paris is so inspirational to me. Like I went to work in a cafe one morning, and it was like 10:30 a.m. and there were these two women, like really chic older ladies, I would say like 70s, both wearing stripy t-shirts with like gilets on, and both having a large glass of white wine at 10:30 a.m.
I can picture
Amazing.
them now.
and then smoking Vogues. And I just thought, like, in England, we'd be like, oh my God, why are they drinking wine and smoking Vogues at 10 a.m.? And there you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're not, I saw this group of girls leaving work. It was like 6 o'clock in Le Marais. And these girls had like left the office, and they're all walking along just all together, just smoking a cigarette. And I was like, oh, I just love it.
Yeah.
Like, I just,
Picture perfect.
I respect their like true like loyalty to the culture. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Really?
I also love the idea of like, I'm going to eat steak and like a huge, or not huge, like mashed potato that is half butter, half mash, but I'm going to eat this little tiny chic portion.
Yeah.
And like, that's how we live. I'm going to smoke. I'm going to have like 2 glasses of wine, and in theory, a terrible meal, but just like a little.
They don't do stuff. You never see people there, unless they're English, like rolling around the floor pissed. But they
Right.
drink. So it's like these women who are drinking at 10:30 a.m. They're drinking, but they're never going to get like battered. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they just do it in a much more controlled way.
Yeah.
And I love the like outside culture there. Like on a day when it was like remotely sunny, every single bar, cafe, restaurant, all of the seats outside, the streets are just full of seats and people just sitting. And I just think, yeah, we should try and take inspiration from them.
In summer, do we still, like, does Soho still do all the seats on the street, like, since
COVID.
pandemic? Yeah. Because that was, like, the piazzas that we all got. But do they still do that now? Maybe everyone sort of stopped doing that.
I just think London's a bit dead at the moment. That is what I felt when I got to Paris. I got there on a Tuesday night and I went for a walk on my own. It was 11 o'clock. Tuesday night, every single restaurant was full.
Yeah.
And like here, when you walk around even Soho on a Tuesday night, you don't really see that as much. Like obviously like Thursday, Friday, Saturdays are like really busy. But I think people here are, trying to save money. Everything's so much more expensive than even Paris. Like a glass of wine there is just much cheaper.
Yeah.
Glass of champagne. I got a glass of champagne for £11. Never get that here.
No.
Euros, sorry.
Well, the podcast is moving to Paris.
Yeah.
What a question that we have. So I'm kind of springing this on you. But
No, that's
I think it'll be fine. What's some of the best advice you've ever been given, or what's some of the best advice you could give sort of sincere or like silly?
Oh my God. The best advice I've ever been given. Do you know what? Well, I don't know. This is a bit too complex. I'm obsessed with this woman called Sabrina Zohar. Does anyone follow her in this room?
I don't think so.
She's like a dating relationship expert, American. It's like she's found me at the perfect time. And it's like we are in a constant dialogue at the moment. Like whenever I need to get reminders of things, I go and just watch some of her saved videos. But she's one of the things that she's like helped me realize is that so much of my like adult life, I've like chased like highs, like dopamine highs in the form of like inconsistent relationships or like going out too late or like taking too many drugs or like fucking up my life basically because of the sort of like highs and lows it gives me. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm trying to do at the moment is like be aware of like that impulse that I have. I don't know how this forms into advice because she's really giving me the advice. So my advice is follow her. But also I think my best advice that if I could say to the younger version of me is that it's in your 20s, you sort of feel like you've got everything figured out. And then I turned 30 last year and then suddenly I was like, oh my God, like I've gone through such a rebirth and a transition. And so I'm so glad I was relatively patient with myself. And I'm so glad that I've had really good friends to like make me feel accepted even when I'm going through these like really tricky situations mentally. So I think follow Sabrina Zohar, be patient with yourself and surround yourself with people who make you feel accepted even when you don't really like fully accept yourself. That's where I've been incredibly lucky, is to always have people around me who just see me even when I'm really doubting like who I am. Chris being a massive part of that.
I think be patient with yourself is so true. So true. And like patient with yourself if you're trying to break habits, if you're trying to start new habits, you know.
It takes forever. Sabrina, this girl, she said this thing the other day, it takes 3,000 times at reprogramming your neural pathways. So say, for example, you have a negative thought towards yourself, which is like, I'm unlovable, being like an example, right? And I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Like that's something that I've felt a lot of my life is that I'm unlovable. And then when I would feel that in the past, I would go to like, I don't know, like trying to seek love from someone who can't give it to me, like someone like a man who's already shown me like really toxic traits. She says that it takes so many times of you going, okay, no, that is not the right person. I'm going to do this instead. You have to do it over and over and over again. And it's really hard to reprogram, but then you can do it. So it's like, be kind to yourself if you don't do it straight away. It takes years. Just knowing you're committing to a process of being like, I want to be better, but I know it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's like a cool part, I think, of being a human.
100%. Nothing's linear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being patient with yourself and giving yourself grace in the process.
Hey.
I just wanted to finish on saying you are a best friend of the pod, because you're one of my best friends, one of Elizabeth's best. I'm going to say you're one of Elizabeth's best friends, but I'm just going to say when we what we were talking about the other day was when we first all kind of hung out in Edinburgh.
Oh my God.
And I was doing a show. I was doing a 50-minute show, and I was having a guest spot every night. And I don't think we'd really met that many times. And everyone I asked was amazing. I'm very grateful that everyone could do it. And you were someone I asked that I literally thought would be like, sorry, Chris, I'm kind of busy. Like, you're like much more experienced and further along your stand-up career than me.
Was this 2022? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I totally like to come and do like a 7-minute spot in my like little cave of a room. I was like, I'm going to ask you because I would love you to do it, but like, I'm ready for you to be like, I'm kind of like doing my show and I'm really, really busy and whatever, I can't do it. But you literally were like, within like 10 seconds was like, I'll be there. And then I was like,
you guys did a song.
We did the song.
Yeah.
But like Elizabeth was saying, you were just like telling the story of like how it all.
Well, I was just
like your favorite. You're like such a good memory.
It's such a good memory of you just coming in. You were like, "Hey, I'm kind of drunk."
I was so drunk. That's what I was gonna say because it was like 9:00.
Yeah, it was 9:00.
I think my show that year was at like, I don't know. It was probably at like 5.
Yeah.
Then I think I'd been drinking.
Yeah.
And then I remember I got there and I sat at the back with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think I got on another drink and I was like,
Yeah. And then your set was watching your set and it was like a 7-minute thing. And by minute 3, you were on your back on the floor, like doing like
the girl K-holing.
Yeah. So about K-holing. And then like stood up, finished it, went like, thank you. And like came to the back and we're like sitting here. And I was like sat down, like carried on drinking your drink. And then afterwards was when, I don't know, this was probably the most iconic thing. We went to the off license and we were like, do you have Vogues? And then you like spilt something all over. And it was so iconic. And then I just remember you going like, come meet my friend. And we were just like running after you in Edinburgh. And I just remember being like, this bitch is so funny. What a fucking icon.
I remember being in the shop buying Vogues and spilling the drink. And then I remember we were smoking a cigarette. That's why I remember we were like standing. So I was smoking a cigarette. I remember we were standing down near like Cowgate or wherever it was. Yeah, that was jokes.
So iconic.
That was the Edinburgh where I was really fun.
Such a good meeting. Such a good time to meet.
Yeah.
Such a good time to meet. And we had fun as a 3.
Yeah.
A night preserved in history forever.
Yeah. It was.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Grace.
Thank you
You're
for
a
having me.
delight always, every time we meet.
I love you both very much. You're just wonderful. So it's a pleasure.
People need to follow you if you don't. Disgrace Campbell on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
People need to look out for
Our show
in
Phoenix
June at the
Arts
Phoenix.
Club.
Yeah, we're doing a show at the Phoenix Arts Club.
What's the date of that? June 17th.
June 17th.
Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. Oh, you need to listen to Late to the Party.
Oh yeah, sorry, my podcast.
Important.
My producer's so funny. She's like, whenever I'm doing something, she's like, make sure you talk about the podcast.
No, literally nothing else.
Yeah,
no,
I think no
my
other projects.
podcast, Late to the Party, which is actually a really fun podcast.
It's an amazing pod.
It's really fun. Yeah, you should listen to that.
It's amazing.
That's my time to go and get my dog.
And that's great. This is going to go and get Eddie. Thank you
Eddie.
so much for listening, everybody. We should also say to share, comment, review, tell a friend.
Leave us a review on Spotify,
Or Apple
podcasts, wherever you listen.
I'm a Spotify girl, but I'm happy that people are all over the.
All right.
Bye. See you later.
Just before bed is good for your head. What you gonna do? Stay hydrated. Stay hydrated.